Shalom, all praise to the Most High, Yeshua, Yabashem, Mashiach, Yeshai, Yeshua, Shema. Coming to you with another lesson, the word of truth. We are of the holy seed of Jeshurun. We are that set apart offspring of Yasha'Allah. If you be the will of the Most High, we can receive the promises by keeping the law, statutes, and commandments and the faith in the Mashiach, Yeshai. All right? Today's lesson we're going to do on Abraham, as an example. For us to move forward and receive that the Most High has for us, if it be His will, right? So let's get started. We're going to start in Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the Scriptures might have hope, right? So we're just going to go into the Scriptures and read things written about our first forefather, Abram, to get some comfort, and some understanding on how we need to be walking before the Most High and trusting in Him, right? First, we're going to go to Genesis chapter 11 and verse 26, and it reads, And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Verse 27, Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees, right? So this is this template, right? We got Terah, Abram, his brother Nahor perishes, and his brother Haran perishes, and just him and Nahor, right? And at this time they're in Babylon, right? Ur of the Chaldees is a city in Babylon, right? Now we're gonna go into Jasher today, all right? We're gonna go into Jasher teach this lesson, and we have our scriptural biblical purposes of Jasher and Joshua. We'll read those real quick. Joshua 10 and 13. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about a whole day, right? And we also have 2 Samuel chapter 1 and verse, I think it's 18. Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. Jasher means upright, so it's the book of the upright, right? Meaning Jacob and his 70 sons and his 70 souls. Jacob, the 70 souls of Israel, including Jacob, right? And let's go. All right. So now we're going to go on Jasher, and we're going to start in chapter 7. Verse 49, and it reads, And Terah, the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects, and the king and princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. This is the father of Abraham. He was a prince in a very in high position under Nimrod, who was the king of Babylon. Right, ancient Babylon. Verse 50, and Terah took a wife, and her name was Amthilo, the daughter of Cornebo, and the wife of Terah conceived and bare him a son in those days. Terah was 70 years old when he begat him, and Terah called the name of his son that was born to him Abram, because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all the princes that were with him. So this is the Jasher account of the birth of Abram, right? Now we're going to go on chapter 8, and we'll start right there. Verse 1. And it was in the night that Abram was born, that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars, and they saw, and behold, one very large star come from the east and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight, and the sages understood this matter, and they knew its import. Right? So there was a sign in the heavens when Abram was born. All right. And this is why we read this. Let's go to Genesis 1:14. And Ahia said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." So these people who were dealing with, astrology, which we don't deal with as Israel, were able to see through their astrology and observing of times to know what this meant in the heavens on the same day that this child was born, right after they left the house, right? Verse 4, and they said to each other, "This only betokens the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever, and he and his seed shall slay great kings and inherit their lands." This sounds like the promise that was given to Abram. Let's read it. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 2. "And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee, and in thee all families of the earth be blessed, and in thee, Slakia, shall all families of the earth be blessed." Dropping down to verse 7. "And the Most High appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land, and there builded he an altar unto the Most High, who appeared unto him." So this is showing you that this is a true report that these seers and conjurers saw, because all these things are basically saying the promises. They say you're going to multiply and be fruitful, you're going to possess the earth. They tell you in Sirach, I'm going to tell you in 2nd Ezra 6 and I think 57 that the Most High made the world for our sakes, right? And that he said it would slay great kings, they would kill all the kings of the Canaanites coming into the land and possessing the land and living in their stead, right? So line it up, right? Now let's go to verse 5. "And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled at an appointed house." So they got together in the morning to discuss that they saw the night before. "And they spoke and said to each other, Behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, Why have you concealed this matter from me? And then we shall all suffer death. Therefore, let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw, and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear. And they did so, and they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground, and they said, May the king live, may the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of thy host, and we yesternight came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when thy servants went out from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven, and we saw a great star coming from the east, and the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up 4 great stars from the 4 sides of heaven. And thy servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and were greatly terrified, and we made our judgment upon the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to Terah, who will grow up and mightily, and multiply greatly, and become powerful, and kill all the kings of the earth, and inherit all their lands, and he and his seed forever. Right, he's talking all the way down to the nation of Israel. Verse 12, And now our Lord and King, behold, we have truly acquainted thee with what we have seen concerning this child. If it seem good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. So understand, Satan already trying to kill Abram right when he born, to stop what the Most High already had planned for him and us subsequently, right? Satan coming right away. Get this dude, man. Kill this dude right now, right? Let's read Deuteronomy 16 and 19. Matter of fact, let's read a little more. 16 and 19. We're going to go in and out the scriptures in Jasher. Right? And the king heard, this verse 14, and the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight, and he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was yesternight born to thee, and after this manner was observed in the heavens at his birth. So he's telling him what the seers told him. And now therefore give me the child, that we may slay him before his evil springs up against us, and I will give thee for his value thy house full of silver and gold. Trying to bribe this dude for him to give him his child for some silver and gold. This is Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 19. Thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. So Terah is not of the righteous seed, but best believe he's dealing with judgment now. Wrestling like, man, should I give him this child? Should I respect this person? He's the king. He's the king, man. I got to do what he say, right? And he take the gift, all this silver, all this gold, man, is this going to profit me? This is what he's wrestling with when he's being told this, right? Now, let's drop over to verse 30. And Terah answered the king, saying, I beseech thee, my lord and king, to let thy servant speak a word before thee, and let the king hear the word of his servant. And Terah said, let my king give me 3 days' time, till I consider this matter within myself, and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree to this. And the king hearkened to Terah, and he did so, and he gave him 3 days' time. And Terah went out from the king's presence, and he came home to his family and spoke to them all the words of the king, and the people were greatly afraid. So this is, he's being given a little time to think about what should he do, right? And it was in the 3rd day that the king sent to Terah, saying, send me thy son for a price, as I spoke to thee. And shouldest thou not do this, I will send and slay all thou hast in thy house, so that thou shalt not have a dog remaining. And Terah hasted, as this thing was urgent from the king, and he took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had born to him that day, and Terah brought the child to the king and received value for him. So he took one of his handmaid slaves, babies that had just had from him that day, and took it to Nimrod, right? Verse 34, and the Most High was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abram's death. And the king took the child from Terah, and with all his might dashed his head to the ground, for he thought it had been Abram. And this was concealed from him from that day, and it was forgotten by the king, as it was the will of providence not to suffer Abram's death. So he took Terah's son. If it was Abram, busted dude's head open right there in front of him. And Terah, I hope he played it off, act like it was, but he saw it. That's what dude wanted to do to him, and he killed him right in front of his face. Verse 35, and Terah took Abram his son secretly, together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them their provisions monthly. And the Most High was with Abram in the cave, and he grew up, and Abram was in the cave 10 years. And the king and his princes, soothsayers, and sages thought that the king had killed Abram. You see that? So right out the gate from Abram's birth, he going through the most. He already had to dodge an attempt on his life. Most High giving his father wisdom how to deal with that. And now he living in a cave, hiding for the first 10 years of his life. He's hiding, right? So all glory to the Most High. Let's get a scripture, Job chapter 5 and verse 12. And it reads, he disappointed the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. So Nimrod and all his conjurers thought they was going to just stop the work of the Most High and just kill Abram. But the Most High gave Terah wisdom on how to deal. to preserve the life of Abram, right? Moving on. So now we in Joshua chapter 9. We're going to start in verse 4. Haran was 42 years old when he begat Sarai. Now, that's not true, right? And I told y'all to listen about the Gnostic Gospels and extra biblical texts. You have to walk the Dutch and not be scared to read any scripture, because you know the word, the Bible is your foundation. If it don't line up with the Bible, you just toss that out and you keep it moving. As long as it doesn't contradict the scriptures, you keep it moving, man. You don't have to throw out the whole book of Joshua. Some people say you don't got to read the book of Joshua, but Joshua fills in the gaps that the Bible doesn't speak of, right? So to show you the true father of Sarah, we go to Genesis chapter 20, verse 11. And Abram said, behold, because I thought surely the fear of Ahiah is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So this is what Abram said to Abimelech, one of the Canaanites, when they saw that, matter of fact, what was he in? When he was in the South Country. It says in the South Country. And so Sarah was really beautiful. And so he was explaining that, that he was telling them that he was a sister. But as you can see, Haran is Aaron's brother. And so there's no way that he bare Sarah, because it tells you in scripture that Sarah is Abram's sister, the daughter of his father, but not the daughter of his mother. So this tells you that Terah is the father of Sarah through another handmaid that he had, right? Moving on. Which was in the 10th year of the life of Abram, and in those days Abram and his mother and his nurse went out from the cave, as the king and his subject had forgotten the affair of Abram. So they forgot, they tried to kill him and all, and they thought he killed him. They forgot about the whole thing. Verse 5, and when Abram came out of the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instruction of Ahiah and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was, and Abram served Noah and Shem, his son, for a long time. Let's go to Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12, verse 7. And the Most High appeared unto Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto Ahiah, who appeared unto him. This is how Abram knew how to build an altar and bless the Most High, because he went to Noah and Shem and he learned the ways of the Most High. You understand? Because when it talks about Abram, it talks about him being born, talks about his father taking him from the Ur of Chaldees and living in the land of Canaan. And then it skips to talking to Abram in Genesis 12, chapter 4. Genesis chapter 12, verse 4 says, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So he's already 75 years old. And it's 75 years of his life that we don't know about. This is what we're reading, so you can understand the walk of Abraham and how he came to be the friend of the Most High, right? All right, so now we're going back into, let's go. Joshua chapter 9, and we're at verse 6. And Abram was in Noah's house 39 years. And Abraham knew the Most High from 3 years old, and he went in the ways of the Most High until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against Ahiah, and they rebelled against him, and they served other powers, and they forgot the Most High who created them in the earth. And the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves at that time every man his powers of wood and stone, which could neither speak, hear, nor deliver. And the sons of men served them, and they became their power. So understand, Noah, Shem's still alive at this time, because this is after the flood when Nimrod is ruling. And yes, they taught Abram for 39 years, man, the truth, the ways of the Most High, the laws, the statutes, the judgments, right? The commandments. So this is how Abram knew who Ahiah was. He didn't just get visited by the Most High and say, I'm going to give you this land, I'm going to give you all the promises. He don't know nothing. He was taught, right? Let's go to Psalms. They said every man was serving their own powers of wood and stone at this time, man. So You know, let's reaffirm, you know, make it clear who we deal with, right? This is Psalms 95:6. For all the powers of the nations are idols, but the Most High have made the heavens, right? So our power, the power of Yasha'Allah of Israel, is the highest Shoahaya. These other nations, as you can see, they were serving idols, right? Now, let's go to verse 7. And the king and all his servants and Terah with all his household were then the first of those that served the powers of wood and stone, right? So Terah, this is Abram's dad. He's an idolater, right? So Abram is being picked out by the Most High to start a new nation, and he said, I'm going to make a nation out of you, right? Mind you, his father is one of these wicked people that's, as every man said that the scripture says, serving powers of wood and stone, right? Verse 8. Verse 8, and Terah had 12 powers of large size, made of wood and stone, after the 12 months of the year. And he served each one monthly, and every month Terah would bring his meat offerings and drink offerings to his powers. Thus did Terah all his days. So this is to show you right now, this is your zodiac, fraction of the zodiac signs in astrology right here. Showing you all the names of the 12 months of the year are named after other powers, right? So are the weeks of the year, all right? And this stuff was going on when? Ancient Babylon. Everything, all the witchcraft, all the wickedness in the earth is nothing new. It comes from Nimrod's reign in ancient Babylon. You got to read the Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. It breaks down everything, y'all. All right? This is, we going on to verse 9. And all the generation that were wicked, and all that generation were wicked in the sight of Ahiah, and they thus made every man his power, but they forsook the Most High, who created them. So they turned away from the Most High. And there was not a man found in those days in the whole earth who knew the Most High, for they served each man his own power, except Noah and his household, and all those who were under his counsel knew the Most High in those days. Verse 11, and Abram, the son of Terah, was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it, and the Most High was with him. And the Most High gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of that generation were vain, and that all their powers were vain and were of no avail. Let's go, man. The Most High was showing Abram the wisdom from his youth, giving him the understanding, right? This is Psalms 111 and verse 10. The fear of the Most High is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. So this is how he had all the understanding, because he was following the commandments that he was taught by knowing Shem. He was waxing great, getting blessed, and having all things in sufficiency, right? This is verse 13. And Abram saw the sun shining upon the earth, and Abram said unto himself, surely now this sun that shines upon the earth is power, and him will I serve. So after he's been taught 39 years, he's still pondering in his heart, man, who is the Most High? What is the Creator, right? It's the sun right here, right? You might ask yourself, why is he doing that? We're going to show you. This is the core of the understanding of the scripture we read. This is Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 13. And ye shall seek me and find me when ye shall search for me with all your heart. Right? So Abram's searching for the Most High. He want to know, is the sun, is this the Most High? Right? Is this it? Verse 14, and Abram served his son in that day, and he prayed to him. And when the evening came and the sun set as usual, and Abram said within himself, surely this cannot be the Most High. Man, this ain't the Most High, man. I had to see, though. I wanted to make sure who I'm serving, who I'm worshiping. And he concluded, man, this ain't the Most High. Right? Let's see. Let's go to verse 4. Let's get another precept. This is Proverbs. Chapter 8 and verse 17. I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. So when he woke up in the morning, he was brought into the understanding, like, man, this is not the Most High, right? I'm not dealing with that. Right, so this is verse 15. It says, and verse 15 says, and Abram still continued to speak within himself, who is he who made the heavens and the earth, who created upon earth. Where is he? And the night darkened over him, and he lifted up his eyes toward the west, north, south, and east, and he saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And Abram saw the stars and the moon before him, and he said, Surely this is the Most High, who created the whole earth as well as man. And behold, these his servants are powers around him. And Abram served the moon and prayed to it all that night. So now we're thinking, man, maybe this is the Most High. I gotta see. I'm just looking at these lights in the firmament of heaven, man. Maybe these is the Most High, right? Verse 18, and in the morning, when it was light and the sun shone upon the earth as usual, Abram saw all the things that a higher power had made upon the earth, right? And Abram said unto himself, Surely these are not powers that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of Ahijah. And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew the Most High and his ways, and he served the Most High all the days of his life, and all that generation forgot the Most High and served other powers of wood and stone, and rebelled all those days. Let's get a precept for that. All right. So he's seeking them early, waking up and seeing like, man, this stuff is not true. Why are they saying this? Why are they saying that? Why they got why they have us, thinking that these people, these things are the Most High, and they're not, right? He says, so let's go to Psalms 119:1. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of the Most High. So the way you go in his ways is you walk in the law, right? Verse 2, blessed are they that keep his testimonies, that seek him with their whole heart. This is what Abram doing. He's seeking him. I got to find out, man, where you at? Where are you? Who are you, right? They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. So understand, y'all, I don't want to blow too quick over this. All right. Abram is doing these things because he wants to know the Most High for himself. He's not leaning all the way on, well, my teacher taught me this. My teacher read me this. My teacher said this, right? I still got to see for myself if this is true. You understand? A lot of us are being taught the doctrine, these false doctrines are being taught, right? And we're just taking what was being taught because the initial revelation is you're Israel, which is exhilarating to know this. And now anything else the person tell you, just taking it, all right, that's true, because he told me that was true, this is true. But no, Abram was taught for 39 years by knowing Shem, and he's still, all right, man, I got to see for myself. Hold on, let me make sure, all right? This is why I want you to understand why Abram, right? Now, let's go ahead and go to the next chapter. We're going to go to, because at this time, Nimrod starts, trying to get the tower built. Most High divides the tongues. And all this time, Abram's learning, learning over there with knowing Shem, right? So we get over here to, we go to the book of Joshua chapter 11, verse 13. And in the 50th year of the life of Abram, son of Terah, Abram came forth from the house of Noah and went to his father's house. So mind you, he was in the cave 10 years. He was at Noah and Shem's house 39 years. In the 50th year, he came out, right? And Abram knew Ahijah, and he went in his ways and instructions, and the Most High, his power was with him. And Terah, his father, was in those days still captain of the host of King Nimrod, and he still followed strange powers. So Terah was still, respected, and still by Nimrod, was still serving all them dumb 12 idols, right? And Abram came to his house, to his father's house, and saw 12 powers standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. This is Proverbs. All right, Proverbs chapter 8 and verse 13. The fear of the Most High is to hate evil, right? Pride and arrogancy and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate. So he's hating the fact that his father is worshiping these dumb idols. Man, what's this dude doing, man? Right? This angel, he said his anger was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. Right? Verse 17. Let's see, make sure, okay. Verse 17, and Abram said, as the Most High liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house, so shall the Most High who created me do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Abram went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abram hastened and went from the chamber of his father's outer court, and he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with him. And Abram came and sat before him. So for sure, man, he has an anger, he has a detestful, vehement hate for the abomination that being done, all right, by his father, man. Verse 19, and Abram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me, where is Ahiah? Where is the power who created heaven and earth and all the sons of men upon earth, and who created thee and me? And Terah answered his son Abram and said, Behold, those who created us are all with us in the house. So you're like, man, they right here. What you talking about? So let's go to Deuteronomy, because we know Abram knew the law, and we're seeing that he's going according to the law. He's asking his father, man, because he want to know what's good. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee thy elders, and they will tell thee. So he's trying to ask, and this is what Terah's telling them, though, man, they right here in the house, y'all. You know, don't trip, they right here. And Abram said to his father, My Lord, show them to me, I pray thee. And Terah brought Abram into the chamber of the inner court, and Abram saw, and behold, the whole room was full of powers of wood and stone, 12 great images, and others less than they without number. And Terah said to his son, Behold, these are they which make all thou seest upon earth, which created me and thee and all mankind. And Terah bowed down to his powers, and he then went away from them, and Abram his son went away with him. So, I tell you, I just read you in Proverbs, it said, the fear of the Most High is to hate evil, and the forward tongue do I hate. And man, he's throwing some forward words here to Abram. Like, man, that's bull, that ain't true. You know what I'm saying? The Most High, he the one made us, right? Verse 23, and it says, and Abram went and gone from them, he went to his mother and sat before her and said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those who made heaven and earth and all the sons of men. Now therefore hasten and fetch a kid from the flock and make of it savory meat, that I may bring it to my father's powers as an offering for them to eat. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. And his mother did so, and she fetched the kid and made savory meat thereof and brought it to Abram. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother and brought it before his father's powers, and he drew nigh to them that they might eat. And Terah his father did not know of it. So he trying to see, you know what, I'm going to try this dude. I'm going to try, this is what he told me. I'm going to give him a fair understanding, a fair try. I'm going to see what my father's saying, something true. And Abram saw on that day, when he was sitting amongst them, that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them could stretch forth his hand to eat. This is Psalms 115. All right? Psalms 115 and 3. But our power is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he pleased. This is what Abram knows. Our power is in the heavens. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them, so is everyone that trusteth in them. All right, this is scripture telling us, like, man, these idols ain't nothing, man. Everyone who want to deal with these idols, you dumb just like the idol. Can't do nothing just like the idol can't do nothing, right? All praise your name, Hashem Yeshua. So, now we're going to go down to verse 27. And Abram mocked them and said, Surely the savory meat that I prepared has not pleased them, or perhaps it was too little for them, and for that reason they would not eat. Therefore tomorrow I will prepare fresh savory meat, better and more plentiful than this, in order that I may see the result. And it was on the next day that Abram directed his mother concerning the savory meat. And his mother arose and fetched 3 fine kids from the flock, and she made of them some excellent savory meat, such as her son was fond of. And she gave it to her son Abram. And Terah his father did not know of it. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother and brought it before his father's powers into the chamber. And he came nigh unto them that they might eat. And he placed it before them. And Abram sat before them all day, thinking perhaps they might eat. So again, he's trying to see what's the deal with these things that my daddy up here worshiping, man, right? And Abram viewed them, and beheld they had neither voice nor hearing, nor did one of them stretch forth his hand to the meat to eat. And in the evening of that day, in that house, Abram was clothed with the spirit of Ahiah. And he called out and said, Woe unto my father and this wicked generation, whose hearts are all inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which can neither eat, smell, hear, nor speak, who have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs which cannot move. Like them are those that made them and that trust in them. Basically, he just quoted Psalms right there. And when Abram saw these things, his anger was kindled against his father, and he hastened and took a hatchet in his hand and came unto the chamber of powers, and he broke all his father's powers. And when he had done breaking the images, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the great power which was there before them, and he went out. And Terah his father came home, for he had heard at the door the sound of the striking of the hatchet. So Terah came into the house to know what this was about. Right? Glory to the Most High. This is the same thing the Most High had our forefathers doing, breaking down images when we came to possess the land of Canaan, right? Tearing down the groves and killing the people. We didn't kill them all, but this is why he wanted us to kill them all, because he didn't want us to serve their idols, take up their customs, right? Oh, praise your name, High. And Terah, having heard the noise of the hatchet in the room of images, ran to the room to the images, and he met Abram going out. So Abram passed him walking out the door, like, man, I'm out of here, right? And Terah walked by him, Abraham walked right by him, right? And so basically, Abraham done tore up all his and tore everything up. Like, man, ain't none of that going down here no more. That's a wrap, right? So we go over to verse 42. And he had a conversation with his father. You know, when his father got mad at him, man, what's wrong with you? Why you do that? These are powers, right? This is what Terah. And so Abram tells Terah that the hatchet that's in the hand of the power of the God that he didn't break down, it walked around and killed all the other ones. That's what happened. It went and killed all of them and broke them all down. So why you looking at me like I did it? This is what he telling Terah. So Terah, this is Jasher chapter 11, verse 41. And Terah's anger was kindled against his son Abram when he spoke this. And Terah said to Abram, his son, in his anger, what is this tale that thou hast told? Thou speakest lies to me, telling me him that this statue just broke all the other statues down. Is there in these God's spirit, soul, or power to do all thou hast told me? Are they not wood and stone? And have I not myself made them? And canst thou speak such lies, saying that the large power that was with them smote them? It is thou that didst place the hatchet in his hand, and then says he smote them all. And Abram answered his father and said to him, and how canst thou then serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols in which thou trustest deliver thee? Can they hear thy prayers when thou callest upon them? Can they deliver thee from the hands of thy enemy? Or will they fight thy battles for thee against thy enemies, that thou shalt serve wood and stone, which can neither speak nor hear? Right? So he banging on him like, I just showed you who did what, and you still want to serve these dudes? Like, man, what's wrong with you, right? And now surely it is not good for thee, nor for the sons of men that are connected with thee, to do these things. Are you so silly, so foolish, or so short of understanding, that you will serve wood and stone and do after this manner, and forget a higher power, who made heaven and earth, who created you in the earth, and thereby bring a great evil upon your souls in this manner, by serving stone and wood? Did not our fathers in the days of old sin in this manner, and a higher power of the universe brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed the whole earth? And how can you continue to do this and serve powers of wood and stone, who cannot hear or speak or deliver you from oppression, thereby bringing down the anger of Ahiah of the universe, bringing down the anger of the power of the universe upon you? Now therefore, my father, refrain from this, and bring not evil upon thy soul. and the souls of thy household. All glory to your name, Shah. So Abraham riding for the Most High on his daddy, like, yo, you tripping, right? This is Proverbs 11 and 30. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. So he trying to win the soul of his daddy, like, Dad, you tripping, man. You can't do this. Our forefathers just got